In this chapter, you're going to learn about animal morphology, especially earthworm, and it represents Annelida. We're going to learn about morphology. That means that you're going to take into consideration external appearance of the organism. But however, the fact remains that we are also studying the anatomy in this case, some amount of tissues in the body wall, how the digestive system and the other systems are designed. In the introduction of this chapter, it says that you already know about cells and tissues and how they organize themselves to form a multicellular body. And it also gives you some amount of information about where the epithelial tissues, the connective tissues, the muscular and the nervous system tissues are arranged in this organism, and how this organism is adapted for its habitat. Alright? The morphology, internal organization of the body and various systems and physiological processes run by them can be studied in this chapter, like it says so. So let's take the basic habit and habitat of earthworm. It's a typical coelomate. What do you mean by that? Coelomate means an organism which has got true coelom, that is, it is eucoelom. Coelom, as you all know, it's a body space which should be lined by the mesoderm on the internal and the external side. And therefore, it's a true coelomate organism. And like I had said earlier, it belongs to the phylum Annelida, so it's an annelid. In our country, we get to see Pharyngopostoma, and like I said, the morphology we're going to take into consideration. It's reddish brown, it's terrestrial, invertebrate. You all know what invertebrate is, and inhabits on the upper layer of the moist soil. As you all know, it helps the farmers at a very micro level of plowing, so they're also called as friends of the farmers. And their compost, that is their feces, which is called as vermicompost. Here it's written as worm castings. They basically enrich the soil, right? So whatever food it consumes along with the soil, it is casted, it's treated as worm castings, and they are basically helpful for the farmers for providing nutrition to the soil, enriching the soil. And they can here be used as, tracing these specimens, the feces, fecal matter can be used to trace the earthworm in the soil. Then comes the basic morphology. It is cylindrical, elongated. The body has got almost 100 to 120 number of segments, and these segments, if you take a good look at the picture, I'm going to show you one. Alright, here you see the clitellum, right? It is 14, 15 and 16. These three segments are basically considered as clitellum. So the region before that is called preclitellar region, and the region behind it from here till the anus is called as postclitellar. So if you see the morphology, then you get to see three regions, and the basic identification is the clitellum. So preclitellar, clitellar and postclitellar. Alright. It says that the dorsal surface of the body is marked by a dark median mid-dorsal line. What does that mean? You get to see a very fine line here. This is dorsal side, right? And the anterior end, that is the first segment, is given a specific name which is called as peristomium. Stoma means an opening. In this particular case, it's a mouth. So peri is the peripheral region that is surrounding segment, which is surrounding what? The mouth, that is the stomium. So the first segment has been given a very specific name, that is the peristomium. And there's a kind of wedge-like structure protruded out from the roof that is called as prostromium. So it helps in digging the soil. Okay. So like it's written in your textbook, anterior end consists of the mouth and the prostromium, which is a lobe which serves a wedge to force open cracks in the soil into which the earthworm may crawl slowly further. It's a very sensitive organ. The first segment, like it says, it's peristomium, in which the mouth is found. And like I said earlier, in the mature earthworm, 14, 15, 16 segments are basically a little darker band, which is called as clitellum, and they are very fine gland, that is the glandular tissues present in this region. Thus the body is divided into 3 prominent segments, like I said, pre-clitellar and the post-clitellar segments. Okay. Apart from there, you have many apertures present, which basically helps us in identifying the regions, whether they are playing any role in the reproduction or not. So they are basically somaticae, I'll show you in the diagram. Then there are genital openings, and then there is the male and the female genital openings, and you all know it's a hermaphrodite, so you're going to find both of them in here. Alright. And it's got very fine walking structures called as setae. One second. You get to see setae here. They're S-shaped structure, and they're embedded in a sac-like structure, setal sac. The seta is the walking structure. It helps in walking, crawling, or wriggling of the earthworm. And it's supported by certain muscles, that is the protractor and the retractor muscle. The retractor is going down below, and the protractor is moving up on the outer side of the body. Right? And then, like I'd spoken about the apertures, you take a quick look at the apertures that it has. Okay. This is the diagram that I want to see right in the beginning of the chapter. See, students. Like I said, it's a hermaphrodite, but it doesn't use its own sperm to fertilize its egg. Rather, it's got sperm banks. There are 4 pairs, spermaticae. We call them spermaticae, located in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. So, therefore, they are hanging like this. This round portion you see is ampulla, and here, small baggage that you see is a diverticle, and it's got pores right at the top. So, they're basically hanging from the septa of the 5th, 6th. So the one actually in the 6th segment is hanging, the present in the 6th segment is hanging from the wall, septal wall of 5 by 6. 7th one is hanging, you should say that the opening is present in the 6 by 7 septa at the base on the ventral side. The 8th one has got the pore in the down below the earthworm on the ventral side, and the pores are present in the 7 by 8. And the 9th one, it's got a pair of pores in the septal wall at the ventral surface, again at 8 by 9. So therefore you see these 4 pairs of apertures in the body wall. So I'm teaching you this right away where I'm teaching you the body wall and the apertures concerned. And they're, like I said, it's got testes, and there are 2 pairs of testes, one in the 10th and one in the 11th segment. However, the aperture, that is the male genital aperture, is in the 18th segment. So the sperm has to move right from there, receive certain juices, and the openings are present in the 18th segment. So this is the opening that you're going to see on the ventral side of the earthworm. Also, the female, if you talk about the female, the aperture is going to be, since the ovary is hanging from the septal wall of 12 by 13, but the opening is present in the 14th segment. So this is basically the female genital aperture, that is the opening. Right? So what all openings you're going to see? You're going to see the spermatical openings, you're going to see the female genital aperture, you're going to see the male genital apertures, and besides that, it's got nephridias, which is the excretory structure. So you see minute, very minute openings present scattered all over the wall. And I'll show you the nephridia, which is the excretory organ, like I said, and I taught you also in the animal kingdom, specifically when I taught you annelids. that they excrete with the help of nephridia. So this is the nephridia that's shown in the picture out here. They are basically of 3 types depending upon their location. This is a typical nephridia that you see, and this is an external pore. It's not necessary that it should be opening out. It may be opening inside. On the basis of that, it's classified into 2 types of nephridia. That is, the one which is releasing the excreta right on the surface of the body. So those nephridial openings you're going to see as very minute apertures of the body wall itself. So what did you get to read is that the body wall has got certain apertures scattered, and like I named them, you're going to keep that in mind right at the beginning of the chapter. Now I'm going to take into consideration the transverse section of the body wall. Let me show you the diagram. Alright. This is the diagram that you get to see. I'm going to zoom. This is the cuticle that you get to see. Cuticle layer. This one is the epidermis. The epidermis has got cells such as mucus gland cells, which will be secreting mucus so that it gets secreted down at the surface and gets coated on the body wall, so that keeps it moist, because that is how it respires. The oxygen gets dissolved in the mucus there, and then it gets transpired down inside. Along with that, you see a lot of supporting cells and albumin gland cells and some amount of basal cells. So the epidermis consists of the mucus and the albumin gland cells, along with them the supporting and the basal cells. Thereafter, there's a musculature layer. The musculature layer consists of the circular muscles. Because the transverse section, you're going to see the circles like this, so it's considered as circular muscles. The longitudinal muscles are extending from the mouth to the anus. So therefore, in the cross section, you may see them as bundles. This is a little thin comparatively. This thicker. Another layer of thin circular layers. So though it's the longitudinal one is basically got sandwiched between the 2 circular ones. And then you see the transverse section of the gut. The gut is here. So the gut has got its own linings, but I will consider one of them as parietal peritoneum and peritoneum. So the visceral peritoneum is present on the gut wall. Therefore, this is the coelom. If this is the gut out here, and this is the whole musculature, so the space between them is a coelom. Like I said, it's a coelomate. So therefore, the coelom is lined by the parietal peritoneum, and the gut wall is basically lined on the outside by the visceral peritoneum. So this is the basic body plan that you get to see. Alright. If you read from your book, it says that the body is divided into 3 prominent regions, like I read that before. On the ventral sides, segments 5 by 6, 6 by 7, 7 by 8, 8 by 9, they are intersegmental grooves, and you get to see the somatical openings. Single female genital pore in the mid-ventral line of the holding segment. See, just put that in mind. There's only one genital female opening in the 14th, and there is a pair of male genital apertures in the 18th segment. Minute pores and nephridial pores which gets open on the surface, like I taught you about. And except for the first and the last in the clitoral region, it says that they do not have the nephridial pores. So bear that in mind. In the midst of these segments, there is a circle of setae that I showed you. These setae are made up of chitin and helps in locomotion. I told you about that also. Then comes the body plan. The body plan, the earthworm, consists of cuticle, epidermis, circular muscles, longitudinal, and parietal layer. The parietal layer is basically your parietal peritoneum. And the cuticle is a thin layer secreted from the epidermis. So who secretes the cuticle? The epidermis. The epidermis is made up of a single layer of columnar cells, which are supporting cells, oblong gland cells, and which secretes the 2 types of gland cells. One secretes albumin and another one mucus. And sensory cells found in the groups. They bear cilia, which take stimulus, that is inspiration from the external stimulation. So what it means to say is basically they picks up the stimuli from external sources. It could be light, it could be any kind of chemical. Then comes the digestive system. I'm going to show you a picture of the digestive system. I'm going to zoom a little Okay. As you can make out, this 14, 15, 16 segment, this has to be always the thing in your mind, and you should always study anything in earthworm with respect to these three. This band, this cyclone. Okay, bearing that in mind, I'm going to start with the mouth, that is the buccal, which will lead to your buccal cavity, a buccal chamber, and then please don't bear the brain in mind, just ignore that, it's not a part of the alimentary system. The third portion will be the pharynx, then the esophagus, then the gizzard and the stomach, and then from 15th onwards you get to see the intestine. The intestine has got a very specific region in it, and with respect to that we divided it into three parts. We're not going to talk about it right now. We're going to talk about the segments in which these all lie. The mouth opens into the buccal cavity, it says, and spreads to 1 to 3 segment, right? Then the pharynx is up to 4th. The esophagus is 5, 6, 7. The gizzard is in the 8th, and the stomach extends. The stomach extends from the 9th to the 14th segment, and from 15 onwards there is this intestine. Please bear that in mind. I'm going to show you another picture. One thing is that the pharynx got two chambers out here. Do you see this? It's got two chambers, the lower and the upper one. So the ventral chamber, right? And there's another chamber out here. And it's got a bifurcation, a kind of shelf, which is dividing the whole of pharynx into two regions. Alright? And there is this gizzard, and gizzard has got specific inner lining of the cuticle, because all that churning activity takes place here. And I told you that when you see the body plan, then you see the epidermis and the musculatures and the parietal peritoneum, and then you see the coelom, and then you see the gut walls itself. So here I'm going to talk about, this is a coelom, all of this is a coelom. So here, this is if this is your parietal peritoneum, this is your visceral peritoneum, this is whole musculature of the gut, alimentary canal, that is, and the inner lining, that is the digestive tract, is lined by the epithelium, that is coated by inner cuticle. You're going to bear that in mind. That's specifically present in the gizzard. Now comes to the typhlosole. I want to speak about what is typhlosole. I'm going to show you in a picture. Alright, please take a very good look at what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, I have zoomed out this portion in this diagram out here, but please take a good look. This is the body wall, and this whole of this is the coelom. It's called dorsal blood vessel up, and the ventral blood vessel, and this is the nerve cord, and this is the gut wall. The gut wall has got a flap-like portion here, typhlosole, all along a certain region, right? All along the certain region in the intestine. And wherever it is, that part of intestine is called as typhlosolar region. Beyond that, it is post-typhlosolar region, right? So this kind of flap is called as typhlosole. So this basically lies in which part? The moment the intestine starts, from there, that is at 15th to the 26th, it's pre-typhlosolar region. Alright? And from 26 to almost 95 segments, okay, almost 95 segments, that is, you leave the 23 and 25 segments from the back portion. Let's say if this is the earthworm, and whole of this is the intestine, and this part is the typhlosolar. So typhlosolar is from the 26 to almost 95 segments, and beyond that there are almost 23-25 segments. So you leave 23-25 segments from the anus, and then you start considering that the typhlosolar region has started till the 26th segment. That is, leave 15 to 26, because that is pre-tiflosolar. 26 to the last 23, 25 or 26 segments is tiflosolar. So pre-tiflosolar, tiflosolar and post-tiflosolar. Alright? And that is basically 3 parts of the intestine. Okay. In NCRE textbooks, there is a misprinting in the intestinal region. So please bear that in mind, that in this the numbering of the intestine is considered. Please, this figure is right. These numberings are right. Okay. Other than that, there is another structure which I want you to know, is the intestinal ceca. What is the intestinal ceca? I'll show you in the picture. One second. Okay. Now you can see this whole of this is intestine, pre-tiflosolar region, that is 26, from 15 to 26, then tiflosolar till whatever end, leave 23 and 25 last segments, till there you have the tiflosole. Other than that, you see a structure, coming up like horns. So they like pocket-like structure coming out, and they are pouch-like structures. They basically help in digestion. They call it intestinal ceca. So they're emerging from the 26 segment and they move down to somewhere 23. So this is another peculiar structure that you get to see in the earthworm's digestive system. Okay. Also, that it says that in the notes when you read, that there are special calciferous glands present in the stomach, which basically helps in neutralizing the humic acid present in the soil, that is the humus. So that is a very important thing here to bear in mind. And I've taught you about the intestine. Okay. The alimentary canal opens to the exterior by around what you call as anus. The indigested organic rich soil passes through the alimentary canal, and digestive enzymes break down the complex food into small absorbable units. This is a common case, like. And then comes the next system that is picked up is circulatory system. It's got, I'm going to show you the diagram. Of circulatory system of earthworm. Alright. This is a perfect diagram which shows you the circulation pattern in the earthworm. As you can see, there are many vessels, so one thing is very clear, that it's got a closed type of circulatory system, and it's got a lot of blood vessels, and obviously to reach at the tissue level it will have capillaries. It's got heart, so you consider them as lateral hearts, and this is lateral esophageal hearts. So 7 and 9 bears the lateral hearts, and lateral esophageal bear in 12 and 13. Besides them, there are also anterior loops. You get to see in 10 and 11 segments. So when you just leave 8th, you get to see 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This is your heart, this is the heart, and this is the anterior loop. The major vessel is the dorsal vessel. The movement of the blood or the body fluid in this case is from back to front, right? And that is a major vessel is your dorsal vessel. Another major vessel is your ventral vessel. You get to see here, this is your ventral vessel. Other than that, you have a lot of sub branches coming out from the dorsal vessel, which is trying to reach out to the ventral. Okay, there's a vessel coming out here, as you can see. It moves down beneath the ventral, and that is your subneural vessel. It's written out here. That is also labeled wrong in the CBSE textbooks. Right? So this is your dorsal and ventral internal hearts, lateral hearts. These are in pairs. So one is on this side of the alimentary canal, and another one on that other side. So they're hanging down from you across on both sides, on the either side. Like suppose this is the alimentary canal on the either side. So they're paired. Don't consider them one. This is a side view. Then a pair in the 12th and 13th, and the anterior loop, like I said, in the 10th and 11th. So it says that the circulatory system is closed Then there are like it's got vessels and hearts. Due to closed circulatory system, the blood is confined to the heart and the blood vessels. Due to contraction, the blood circulates in one direction, and smaller vessels supply blood to the gut, the nerve cord, and the body wall. And that also there's a diagram for that also. One second, I'm just going to give you a very quick look at that. It's not very important, but just for the heck of knowing that how the circulating pattern moves around this, I want you to see it. There it is. This is the dorsal vessel supplying blood to the lateral hearts and the lateral esophageal hearts. Eventually it reaches out to the ventral vessel. The ventral vessel is the prime vessels which is sending the fluid or the blood for getting enriched with oxygen. So it's sending it to the integuments basically. So integument is the skin, because it helps with the help of skin, it respires with the help of a skin. So it's sending it to the skin, the body wall, and the nephredias and all that. Eventually, again to the heart, right? Gets circulated down here. Some of them is going to the intestine, and eventually to the dorsal intestinal, and therefore to the dorsal vessel. So there's a whole pattern out there. Again, in this diagram, you get to see this is dorsal blood vessel, ventral, subneural. I showed you in the picture. It's sending to transverse vessels and the blood and the heart down below to the ventral, right? And this part it's getting enriched, the body wall and the septums and all getting enriched and supplying it back to the dorsal blood vessel, eventually to be supplied to the rest of the body. Okay. It also says that there are blood glands present in the 4th, 5th and 6th segment. I'll give you a look at that. It's a cluster of glands basically present, and one second. Do you see this? This is the diagram of the nephredias, obviously, illustration. But you see the cluster of blood glands in the pharyngeal region, that is 1/4, 5th and the 6th region says. So basically the pharynx and the esophagus are demarcating the blood glands, the forest of the blood glands. And what does it basically do? It produces blood cells and hemoglobin, which is dissolved in the plasma. It is not present inside any kind of cell. And the role of the blood cell is phagocytic, that is, basically it eats away. Phago means eats, the cyte means cells. So there are cells which eats the germs of microbes which are pathogenic in nature. And like I said, doesn't have any special breathing device. The respiratory exchange takes place through the moist surface, and the oxygen gets mixed into the bloodstream, right? And your textbook it has also shown a diagram similar to something like I've shown you. Then comes excretion. In excretion, basically there are 3 types of, like I said, it's got nephredias, excretory organs. It's got 3 types of nephredias depending upon the region in which they are scattered. One is the pharyngeal one, just from the pharynx region, and another one is integumentary. You get to see integumentary. Another one's a septal. The septal will are beyond 15th. So 15 onwards, septal. Integumentary leave the first 2 segments, and the rest of all segments about integumentary, that is, they're hanging from the wall, and therefore since they are hanging from the wall, the nephrediopause opens outside, so they are exonephric. Exonephric means they're liberating, they're releasing the excretory waste right outside. And the pharyngeal ones, as you can see, they've got a whole lot of tubes, right, tracts, which are pouring the waste into the digestive system. So therefore they're enteronephric. So the pharyngeal ones are enteronephric, dumping their waste in they're making use of this passage to eliminate the extremity waste. And the septal nephridias are also enteronephric. So pharyngeal and septals are enteronephric, they're dumping their waste, making use of this passage, that is the gut, to eliminate the extremity waste. And integumentaries are releasing it directly to outside. So this one is the only one which is exonephric, therefore these apertures, it's integumentary nephridial pores, which are basically the apertures present all over the body where you see. And in your textbook also it writes that all the nephridia open, all these nephridia open into the external surface of the body through minute pores. All it's referring to integumentary. Pharyngeal valves are present in the fourth sex and discharge the weight in the alimentary canal, which I just shown you, that you can see in the picture. Then comes the septal ones. I'm going to show you the picture of septal ones as well. Okay, let's say these are septal ones. I'm going to zoom. These are septal ones scattered on either side of the septa, and they collect their waste and they have this excretory ducts right above the intestine. So supra-intestinal excretory duct, which eliminates eventually into the intestine. So therefore this is also enteronephric. Entero means inside the intestine, entero, that is intestine. So the pharyngeals and your septals are enteronephric, and if these happens to open directly to the outside, then in that case it is exonephric, which is integumentary. So the nephridia regulates the volume and the composition of the body fluids. They're basically osmoregulation. They're playing very important role in osmoregulation. When they have help of nephrostome, this is the mouth. This is the funnel-shaped mouth that you get to see. So this is hanging into the body cavity, the coelom, picks up all the waste. It has got all passage to pick up the essential things and to eliminate those which are not. And this is the pore. That is a nephridial pore, which may be entero or exo, as the case may be. Okay, the next topic that comes is the nervous system. Nervous system, I'm going to show you a picture of nervous system of Earthworm. Alright. See kids, as you can see, okay, as in this diagram you can see that from 5th onwards all the segments got one ganglion. See, one ganglion each. However, if you see a transverse section of this, that's not just one, it's basically two in sheath. So therefore it's a double nerve cord. It's a double nerve cord. These ganglions are basically lining the nerve cord. The nerve cord is straight line on the ventral side, as you know, in the invertebrates it's on the ventral side, and when you see the transverse section, like I said, it's got two lobes, so therefore it is a double nerve cord. Got it? And at the posterior end of the third segment, you get to see a ganglion. Ganglion is nothing but the cluster of nerve bodies or cytons of the nerve cells. So you get to see here at the pharyngeal region, down under, that is, if this is the alimentary canal, then this subpharyngeal ganglion is present underneath here, and there is a suprapharyngeal ganglion at the top here. So supra at the top on the dorsal side of the gut, if this marker is a gut, and subpharyngeal at the base, and they both are connected by, as if it is encircling or embracing the gut, they both are connected by the commissures, connectives. That is peripharyngeal. Peri means it's encircling the pharynx region. So the pore that you hole that you get to see, the basic alimentary canal is passing through this. So it is not a flat structure. This is something like a straight line, and with a neck. It's raised neck like a snake, right? So this is the peripharyngeal connective. This is your suprapharyngeal ganglion, which is also called as cerebral ganglion, right? And whole of this set is basically representing a nerve ring. That is cerebral / suprapharyngeal ganglion, subpharyngeal ganglion, along with the two commissures of connectives called as a nerve ring. Alright, so this is the same kind of literature is given in your textbook also. In earthworm, specific sensory organs like eyes are not present. Only sensory cells of the body wall performs they act as sensory receptor organs. These cells are inspired, that is, they pick up the stimuli from the sensations such as light or vibrations of the line, and some are also picking up tastes. So they're basically chemical instigators, that is the gustatory function, they're picking up tastes. Then comes the reproductive system. Alright. Like I said, in the reproductive system of earthworm, it's hermaphrodite. One second. I'll show you a picture. Okay. This is the mating picture of two earthworms. As you get to see, when they mate, it is releasing this earthworm A, and this is, let's say, B. It is releasing its sperms into this, and the sperms of A will eventually fertilize the eggs of B. And the same moment, the sperms from B are being discharged into the spermatica of A, and later on when they move apart, they will have, during the course of time, the sperms of B which are present in the spermatica will fertilize the eggs of A. Got it? So this is cross fertilization. Even though they are hermaphrodite, they promote cross fertilization. One thing you have to bear in mind. So when they are mating, it's basically not at the same moment the fertilization will occur. Rather, it's a process in which the spermaticae of this is collecting the sperms of A, and the spermaticae, the pouches that I've shown you, the spermaticae of A is collecting the sperms from B. This point has to be very clear. Then I'm going to go to the reproductive system picture, typical picture which I had shown you in the introduction itself. Now let us presume that these spermaticae are already bearing the sperms of another earthworm, right? Okay. Now let's take into consideration the testis. One is in the 10th segment, another one is in the 11th segment. This testis has been supported by the testis sac present out here, and it requires seminal vesicles. So the seminal vesicle for the 10th one is present in the 11th, and the seminal vesicle for the 11th testis is present in the 12th. Therefore, the testis sac present in the 10th has the testis and the seminal vesicle, the spermatical funnel. That is the funnel which is receiving the sperm. The 11th one has got the testis of the 11th pair, the spermatical funnel, and the seminal vesicle of the 10th. Therefore, the seminal vesicle present in the 12th is basically supporting the testis present in the 11th segment, but is not enveloped by any sac, testis sac. So there are two testis sac. Let me repeat it again. There are two testis sac in the 10th and one in the 11th. The 10th one has the testis, spermatical funnel. The 11th one has the testis, spermatical funnel, and the seminal vesicles, these two, of the 10th testis. And the 12th one, the 12th segment has a seminal vesicle, which is basically supporting or meant for the testis present in the 11th one. It is not covered in any testis sac. Thereafter, once the sperms have been collected in the spermatical funnel, then there is this vasa differentia. Eventually, it will be picking up juices from the accessory glands present in the 17th and the 19th segment. There is also this prostate gland extending from 16 by 17 to 20 by 21. Okay, and After picking up the juices from there, then there are the two ducts, common prostatic and somatic duct, having two apertures, male genital apertures, like I said. So there's a pair of male genital apertures in earthworm. In case of female, 12 by 13 septa consists of one pair of ovary with the two pairs of testes, one pair of opening. There's one pair of ovary and a single opening. This receives the eggs in the spermatical funnel. Then there's this oviduct, and then there's this 14th segment bears a female genital aperture. So if you have demarcate this region as a clitoris, so the first segment of the clitoris, the base will be having a female genital aperture. Now what happens is that we have already presumed that the sperms are present in the spermatica of this earthworm. The sperms meant for some received from some other earthworm. And there's this band here, clitoris. When it has to make the eggs, the band, the sensitive glands out here start releasing. Let's say this hand is earthworm and there's this clitoral band. They start releasing some kind of jelly-like of mucus and gets oozed up, and once it gets in contact with the air, it solidifies and forms a girdle. Once the girdle is formed, at the base of here, it's got an ovaries, female genital aperture, which is releasing the eggs. This girdle bears the eggs, and this earthworm wriggles back like this. When it wriggles back, at some point of time, this girdle, which was present here, is come down to this 9 segment, 8 by 9, that is. The spermatica of 8 and 9 releases the testes, releases the sperms. As it moves back, then the sperms present in this 8th segment, which has got a aperture in 7 by 8, releases the sperms. Then the second last pair, and then from here it's the first. And from the process of how they deliver or discharge the sperms, this is the first, then second, then third and fourth. However, from position point of view, you may find it as the last one. And in the end, when the girdle reaches down here, this releases the sperm. They get mixed, they get fertilized, and once it is released, this gets closed, and the back side also gets closed and forms a cocoon. And the cocoon bears the small fertilized zygotes. That is how the whole thing occurs. So during mating, two earthworm comes together and get arranged into juxtaposition, like the upside the other way down. The head and of one earthworm is facing the head of another. That is the inverted sides, upside down. Thus the mouth region of one faces the anus of the other. Male genital opening of one comes in contact with the opening of the spermatica of another earthworm. In this situation, released sperm cells enter the spermatica of companion animal. Those animals are separated after exchanging sperms. After a short time, the secretion of clitoral gland forms a white cocoon. In this cocoon, eggs are released. Due to the contraction of body wall, the cocoon slips towards the anterior end, and when the cocoon is slipping towards the anterior end and passes through the spermatical region, then the sperm stored in the spermatica enter the cocoon. This cocoon contains eggs of the same organism, same animal, and the sperm cells of another with nutritive flow. Both the ends of the cocoon is sealed and when it comes out of the body. This cocoon eggs are fertilized, results into zygote. After 3 weeks, the baby earthworm comes out, and the organ is direct. That means it involves no larval stages. So students, this was to do with your earthworm with respect to your NCRT and your Gujarat board course. Thank you so much. God bless you.